Now that we're reasonably familiar with the Xcode interface and we've run our first app on the iPhone 7 simulator, we're going to start customizing that app. And we'll do that by adding some text, which in iOS development we do using labels. So make sure you've got main storyboard selected. That's what we're going to be working with in this video and the next couple. And we can get rid of the bottom logging area. We don't need that right now. So we're going to bring our attention to the view controller here. Now, a view is the word that we use to describe essentially a screen of your app. So your app might have a number of different views. It might have a login view, a settings view, or a number of other views that allow your user to do things with your app. The view controller then is just the thing that controls the view and allows us to add content to it and manage that content. Notice as well up here we've got the view controller scene, and if we click on the little arrows to expand them, we've got some layout guides like this line here, which indicates where the carrier and Wi-Fi and clock and that information is displayed. So unless you want your app to be full screen, you probably want to start building your app below that line. There are a few other options here which we'll look at later on in the course, but for now we're going to focus on adding some text. And we do this using the object library, which is actually positioned at the bottom right of the screen down here, and we get it by clicking the little image of a square inside a circle there. A quick note, depending on your precise Xcode version, you might find that the object library is up here. Clicking that button gives you the list of objects which you can then search and find what you need. So click on that and then you can have a little scroll through. You can see a bunch of different types of things, especially when we get down to here. Hopefully you'll get things that look reasonably familiar to you if you have an iOS device. The one that we're particularly focused on right now is the label. So click on label and then just drag it in to your view controller. Now, as we move it around, you can see these layout guides appear automatically. So if I want that to be centered, I just need to position it over that blue dotted line. I can do the same thing if I want it to be vertically centered. And there are some other layout guides towards the edge of the screen as well. So for now, just position it wherever you like, really. I'll go towards the top and centered. And now let's see how we can customize this label. So first off, if I tap on it, then it's selected and I can resize the box of the label any way I like. So just as you would do with working with a text box in Word or something like that, works in the same way. And if you want to change the text, you can just double click on it. And I'll change the text to my first app. There we go. So now we've got a bit of customized content. Let's just see it in action. I'm going to run the app again. Xcode 9 is a lot faster than previous versions when running apps in the simulator, so you should find that the process is reasonably quick. And you can see it there on the app itself. There's our label. Right, but what if we want to customize this label and change the size, positioning, etc.? Well, again, we select it and then we click on this symbol here, kind of a shield, which is the attributes inspector. So now you can see we've got a bunch of options which should be reasonably familiar to you. We can change the actual label content there if we want. We can change the color. We can change the font. So if we click on the T, we can select a range of different types. Or we can select custom, which allows us more control. We can have any font we like. Let's get something a bit interesting. There we go. We can change various attributes of that font, and we can change the size as well if we want. So now, of course, that's too big for our label box, so I need to stretch that out a little so we can see the whole thing. You'll notice that it's left aligned in this box, which means it's not going to be centered even if the label box itself is centered. So we can change the alignment of the label to make that centered, or if you want it right aligned or justified, you can do that too. If you then want to add other lines to your label, you can just click My First Label there and then hold down the Option key and press Enter, and then you can have a new line. We will, of course, have to drag that out so that we can see the whole thing. You've then got various other options which you can play around with. I'll just grab a few of the most useful ones. So alpha can be very handy. An alpha of 1 means that the label is fully visible. If we decrease that, you can see it starts to fade out. And an alpha of 0 means it's fully invisible. So if you want to have text that's a little bit see-through, you can do that with images or anything else as well. Changing the alpha is the way to do it. We can have different background colors, different tints, and we can even add a shadow if we want. So let's say I want a nice green shadow there. I can change the width of my shadow to 5 pixels, and I can change the offset as well to move it up and down. There we go. Beautiful. So, to give you an opportunity to practice this, I would like you to create a label, and you can have whatever content in there that you like, but I would like the label to be red with a blue shadow, and to use the Kefir font. Okay, those are your instructions. Time now to pause the video and create that label. Go for it. All right, hope you managed that. So I'm going to delete the label that we had there just by clicking on it and pressing the backspace key. And then from our object library, I'm going to drag in a new label. Put some content in there. There we go. And because I like things centered, I'm just going to center it as well. And then the instructions were to make it red. So let's change the color there. Pick red. Done. And we need to create a blue shadow. So I'm going to click the shadow button and then select a blue color. There we go. You can already see it there. I'm just going to move it down a touch. There we go. Lovely. And we're going to make it have the Kefir font. So we do that by tapping the T for text, selecting custom, and then selecting Kefir. There we go. Simple as that. As I say, feel free to play around with these and you learn a lot more just trying things out. But there is one more thing I want to show you, and that is if you want to make different parts of your label appear differently. You can do that by selecting the attributed type, and then you can select different parts of your label and style them differently. So say I want the whole thing to be centered still. Maybe I want the word hope to be bigger there. If I want that, I can just select the word hope and then customize that text. So I'll click T, and then I can change the size so the word hope now is bigger than the rest. There we go. You can't customize all the options in this way, but you can definitely change fonts and colors and various other aspects of each individual letter within the label. Okay, we're now going to move on and look at 2 new interface elements which will allow some interaction with our apps, and they are buttons and text fields.